as much as it looks like there's an abundance of crops and flowers and loads of foliage, the plot is turning into a complete mess. People say, oh, your plot looks lovely and lush and crowded, but there is a lot of flowers, but there is a lot of foliage now that is dying down, getting soggy and wet, and also underneath plenty of weeds. So my plan today is to try and clear out as much as I can. I mean, underneath, if you lie on the floor of my plot, you'd be horrified the amount of weeds. And I've even seen some nettles coming through on one of the beds, so that's not good. But tomatoes are starting to ripen in the polytunnel. Speaking of polytunnel, I got some huge news that I want to tell you about later on. But I've noticed there is some butterfly whites in the nets over on the brassicas on the new plot. I think I must have left the nets open a little bit too much, but we'll tackle that in a minute. We'll let them out, let them go and do their thing. But I'm excited to tell you about the polytunnel updates and the big news that I've got, and I'm just, honestly, I cannot wait for these big changes that are coming to the channel and to the plots. So I've just popped back to the car because a few people have commented on why I'm using those mushroom baskets when I've got a beautiful Fisker trug. Now, I've shown this many a times on the channel, and it's absolutely perfect because it's got 3 individual sections if you want to put like potatoes, some tomatoes and some beans or whatnot in it. And it's also got like a sieve part here as well, so you can also rinse off veg as well, so it's perfect. But I brought it over because Dora, who I mentioned on the channel about 2 or 3 weeks ago, she sent me some seeds as well from the Heritage Seed Company, and she sent me some freckles lettuce, some garlic chives, some tree spinach, some chocolate cherry tomatoes, and also a new purple TP French bean. This is a dwarf variety as well. So when I first saw them, I thought, am I going to stay loyal to my Blauhilders, the old reliable Blauhilder that works perfect for me every single year? But when looking, these are a dwarf French variety called purple TP. So I'll definitely be adding these to my sowing list for next year. So thank you so much, Dora. I should put a link to her channel in the description as well. I've also brought over a notepad because I need to measure the polytunnel, and I also need to measure some of the parts on the I keep calling it the old plot. It's not, it's the new plot. So I need to do that today because big news. I just stepped in a whole container full of water. So this is a good thing about wearing these Crocs over here, I tell you now, because soggy feet. Right, let's film. So the big news is the tunnel's going. Now you're probably thinking, what? Why would he do that? Because I've had this now about 2 years, and the frame was already on this site when I first took over, and it's been amazing. Like, it's been such a valuable asset to me and to the channel and to growing. But there's just one thing that's never ever sat right with me. So when me and Tony came over and we looked at the polytunnel, there was issues with how to tighten this because it was quite old and certain parts kept moving even though I tightened them up as much as I can. And the cover has never sat firm and tight, and it does wiggle a little bit and the frame does move, and I want it to be a little bit bigger here. So I spoke to First Tunnels are coming up in a couple of weeks time. They're going to build me a brand new polytunnel, the same sort of size as this, same width. I think it's just going to go out to a little bit, like maybe a foot or so more up here, because that's their standard size. This was actually cut by previous owners to fit into this space because of the path, but it's going. I've decided that I'm going to have a brand new tunnel. It's going to look absolutely beautiful, and I'm going to change some of the designs of it and also incorporate my new watering system, which I'm going to show you in a video in a couple of weeks time as well. And it is absolutely going to blow this polytunnel, blow this channel, and hopefully encourage you to look into this system as well, because it's an absolute game changer. It's solar powered, it runs off just solar, and if you want to, you can actually incorporate it into mains as well. It's got Wi-Fi capability, but also connects to your phone if you're off grid, which I am here. So it's going to be perfect. So I can set timers, it can water all the beds, it can water the strawberries in spring, it can keep the tunnel watered in winter by choosing how much water goes in. I'm getting too excited about it, but it seems like my dreams are coming true with watering the tunnel, because working in the hospital, going to university, rushing over here to water sometimes is a job and a half. And you know, if you've got a garden as well, to try and keep everything watered, it's impossible to do all the time if you haven't got enough time. So that's coming up. So yes, the tunnel's going. Next thing to talk about, the fruit cage is also being built as well, so there's going to be a lot of construction, a lot of projects going on this channel in the next coming weeks and months. The shed's being built, everything now is being ordered, but it's finding the places to put it before other things are being built. So first is going to be the polytunnel, then the fruit cage, and then the shed, I think, or maybe the shed and the fruit cage, I don't know. Well, that part can be changed around a little bit, but yeah, things are changing. So basically both plots are going to be redesigned because I haven't incorporated these changes, especially the tunnel. I didn't expect that, so it's more work, but I'm glad that First Tunnels has honestly generously offered to come here and build it, because I generally haven't got the time, and I'm still getting over that COVID I had. It ended up being COVID, so I'm so grateful that they're coming up, they're going to build the tunnel. It's going to be up in a couple of weeks time, so yeah, exciting times. It's a very sunny day, it's quite warm. There doesn't seem to be anyone on the plots as well, which is strange. Very strange. However, I'm going to crack on now, do some harvesting, do some weeding, do some clearing, do some sorting. I've got this burst of energy that is absolutely beaming, and I just want to get this plots started, especially for autumn. So if you are now thinking everything's dying down, I'm starting to get the last of the harvest, or I'm starting to sow more things ready for spring, then just make sure now that you start allocating some time, especially over autumn and winter, for getting the beds ready, weeding everything. Don't just think, I'll do it in spring, I'll get that done in spring. The worst thing you can do, because that time that you will want in spring to be sorting out your beds, to be preparing it all, can be used for sowing and growing. And if you are a new gardener, I promise you, spring is chaos, absolute chaos. I'm not trying to tell you not to do it, because gardening is such a benefit to everyone, but it's chaos. You're sowing, you're planning, you're planting things out, you're thinning out. There's lots going on, and actually one of my favorite times is spring, especially the sowing and getting all the trays ready and everything. So I like to use autumn and winter now to get rid of the beds, get all the weeds out, get rid of them all out, restructure things that didn't work this year. For instance, this long bed with the beans in, it didn't work purely because we didn't have enough sun. So that will be moved over to the new plot, because the beans over there has been amazing. So take this time now to start writing down on pens and paper, drawing out your plots and your gardens about what you can do for next year, and start preparing for it now. And what is that noise? It's a whopping 37 degrees in the polytunnel, but look, tomatoes are growing. This variety is my favorite one of all. It's the Heinz 1350. I absolutely love Heinz tomatoes. They're beautiful, and for one reason only, the ketchup. It's also time to harvest the Nif carrots as well that I had in the circular bed at the start of the year, and they were supposed to be cord different colours, and fingers crossed we'll get some. We shall get some Nif carrots as well. So some of them have gone to seed, which is perfect, because I'm keeping those ones because I want to try and keep some of the seed, because the seed was not cheap. But the difference is, if I don't like the carrots, I won't be keeping the seed for myself. I might give them to other people and they can try them. But let's see if we can get some Nif carrots out of our bed. So, Nif carrots, so we have got some. Now they are supposed to be this size about. They're not supposed to be really, really huge carrots. These ones are a little bit of a tiddlers. But let's have a look inside to see whether or not they've got rings of colour. Okay, so we've got a bit of a colour there as well. So We shall see. Are they what I expect them to be like? No. Will they taste nice? We shall see. I'll put on the screen if I actually enjoyed them. I'll put it here now, and if I did, then you're seeing this part where I say, oh my god, they were really, really nice. If you didn't, then you'll see me saying, don't bother. So I also harvested some of the Tigerella tomatoes, and this one, the Kaleidoscope, which I had off Chris from Veggie Plot, and he'll be coming on the lives as well, coming up soon. But I'm really looking forward to trying these because I've heard so much good things about them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having some of the weird varieties that I've grown in there, and they're all starting to ripen now, so it's good news. So you've heard about the plans that I've got for the next couple of weeks and the next couple of months, but name some things that you'd like to see on the channel. So is there a certain bed that you'd like something grown in, or is there problems that you have in your garden that you'd like me to tackle with you? Now, I'm not saying I'm a pro at it, but if there is a problem that you're having in your garden, you know, in your growing space, pop it in the comments below, and then maybe next year we can grow along together and try and solve those problems as well. So pop them in the comments below if you have any problems in your garden, and maybe I'll designate a bed to problem veg or problem plants. And I promise you, we all have them. So don't think when you see channels that, oh my god, they have so many good harvests, why have I only got a trug with a couple of raspberries in there and a manky old carrot and a few spuds that have slugs have eaten? Trust me, we all get them, we all get them. And if we don't, it's because we've tried tackling that problem over years and try and master it in the way that we can deal with it. So we all get the pests, we all get the problems. So do not worry if it's you, do not worry if you're new to growing. We all go through it together, and this is why I try and show on this channel the highs and the lows. And I mean, I could sit here all day long and be like focusing on the sunflowers or on the dahlias or showing you all the perfect veg, but look, I've got a new allotment as well, and I haven't got much time, so I'm battling it just like you are. I'm in this with you, so do not think that it's all sunshine and roses here, because it's not. I've got problems, I've got jobs that I should have done months ago, I've got seeds that I didn't sow this year, but it is what it is, you know, that's gardening. We cannot do it all, so don't beat yourself up. Plod on for next year, and if you did have problems this year in your garden, write them down and focus on them first, focus on how to tackle those. And mine will definitely be more carrots and a watering system that can help me out when I haven't got the time. So let's just focus on the problems now, and we'll solve them next year. We'll get there. So I apologize for someone cutting steel or something in the background somewhere in one of the gardens, but the show must go on. So one regret that I've had this year is that I gave my rhubarb away, and it was on this plot, and I'm not a big fan of rhubarb, and I was limited to space on here and also on the grapevine garden. But now I've got the new plot over here, there is certain areas around the pond that I think rhubarb might be okay there. So I'm going to go around one of the plots in autumn and winter and ask people who've got big crowns whether or not I can have a slice off it and plant it up. Or if this plot, you know, becomes free over on this side, which I gave them to, perhaps the new plot holders, or before the plot gets taken over by new ones, I can ask the committee, can I take one of my crowns back? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just one of those little regrets that I had, that I wish I kept some of my rhubarb, but, and it's not for me, it's because people do always ask me, have you got any rhubarb? And it's sod's law, isn't it? Once you get rid of something, they want it then, don't they? I didn't grow cucumbers for 2 years, and those 2 years people kept asking me for cucumbers. The following year I grew loads. Oh, we're fed up with cucumbers, so it's just the way it is. I am a little bit worried about all this though, because I mean, look at all these seed heads. Look at and guess which way the wind blows? Yep, right onto the fig and olive plot. So I'm a little bit worried about all of this stuff, but yeah, it's just the way it is sometimes, you know. But I'm saying this while I'm using the water butt to keep my harvest on, because as a professional YouTuber, I haven't got a table still. I still haven't got a table. I'm going to have to put that on my Christmas list and perhaps save up for a nice bench or build one when I do the new shed. So that might be on the list. But for now, I'm using next door's water butt to hold my veg on, because I got nowhere to put my veg. Can you believe that? I cannot believe it. all the fancy little gadgets I've got, and I've not got nowhere to put my harvest off the ground. Bonkers. So some good news. When I put the beds on this plot, I didn't know what was in the soil. I didn't know if the crops would grow you well, but there's some good news. So there's no club root in this bed. So that's really, really good news. Now I'll put a picture up now of what club root looks like, and it's not pretty. The roots are quite swelled up, and they cannot take the nutrients in, and that means that the veg then is poor and it just doesn't work. Now the apples aren't looking the best. You know, they've got some pest damage, but underneath here, the conference pears are looking absolute beauty. So, you know, in a couple of weeks time, these should be good to go. So there has been some lessons on taking on a new plot, is that you can gamble sometimes. I did have a comfortable plot at the grapevine garden, but there was issues with mare's tail and bindweed as well that was taking a lot of my time. But so far, so good. And I mean, there's plenty to do, and I love a project anyway, especially in autumn and winter. You'll see me whizzing through these plots, digging things over, moving beds, building structures. It's my time really that I love. I absolutely love on the allotment as well, and I seem to have more time to do it, which is strange because summer, you think I'd have a lot more time to be over here in the sun, but we haven't even had the sun. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to autumn. I'm actually really, really looking forward to it. And are you doing the same? Like, are you already getting excited for the seed sowings for next year and planning, looking through the catalogues? I can't wait. So I've also got a successful cutting as well from the grapevine garden, and I've got a few others as well off friends that I'm still debating where to put them on the plots. But this one I'm going to overwinter in a bigger pot in the new polytunnel when it's built, and then I think I'm going to put it onto the new plot and build a nice trellis system for it as well. And yeah, we shall have grapes back on the plot again, which is good news for me. Wine and jam, but more wine. Now I can't believe I've just noticed this. Now this is the first year that I've noticed that there seems to be some little olives growing on this tree as well. Now I'm sure they won't come to nothing, but there is some olives at the fig and olive plot. While I was clearing out the grapevine garden as well, I thought I'd show you something that I feel just doesn't get the glory that it needs at the garden or at an allotment. So it's one of these. Now it's like a fencing pin. They're about 3 foot or 4 foot in length, and they've got a bit of a shepherd's hook on the top. Now these, and a pointy end at the top. Now these are worth their weight in gold. So if you can get some of these, they're perfect for staking up Brussels sprouts, plants that might be hanging over, making a boundary, making a fence. I've even used them to keep the chickens in the past, you know, by using a roller fence. So these, if you can get some of these, honestly, they're handy to keep in the shed, because sometimes you just need something just to pop in the ground and cable tie or string it to and keep your plant from snapping over. So I wanted to bring this up for a while, but I finally managed to bring them up from the grapevine garden. So the other night, while I was in bed when I should have been sleeping, I thought of an idea. Now I've got these really big nets, and they've got a pull cord on the end as well, and I use them normally over fruit bushes and things like that. Now I thought, why not just put this over the sweet pea plant that I take out, and all the seeds then that fall into here I can just collect later on, rather than me sitting there all the time and picking them all off the plant. So I'm going to let nature do the job for me, and I'm going to put it in here now and let it hang in the polytunnel and just let it all pop away inside there, and then the seeds I can just gather later on. So let's try and make the job a little bit easier, shall we? So I figured if I just push all this now into here, I mean, it should dry out in the polytunnel okay, and the pods should pop open, and well, we'll see. I'll do a little trial. I'll put these ones next to the other ones later on and see if it works just as well, because I spend so much time, I'm sure you do as well, sit there podding things, and yeah, there is still some flowers on these sweet peas, but not many now, and yeah, it's time for them to go. It's time to start winding down the garden. And I mean, this net has got a good airflow on it as well. It'll be in the polytunnel, so it'll be quite dry and warm, and hopefully some of the pods that are already brown will pop open and give me some pile of seed at the bottom of here. We'll see. So I'm starting to wind down the garden now, and it seems like a really sad thing to do, and it kind of is strange because there's a bit of a transition between summer and autumn, but I kind of like it. You know, it wasn't the best season ever, but we made do with what we had, and that's the main. But it's time now to clear out, make all those beds look lovely and clean and weeded and ready for planting in spring. And also there'll still be other things in the garden that will have some interest, like we'll be planting garlic, overwintering onions. We'll also be putting a pile of cabbages in the polytunnel. The new polytunnel will be built, so I'll be trying to grow a pile of things in there as well over autumn and winter as well, so that we got things going. And there'll be plenty of more projects, I'm sure. There'll be plenty of leeks and winter veg, and yeah, there's always something to do in the garden. There definitely is. People who say, oh, I'll see you in spring, I don't know how they do it, but I like to plod on little jobs all through the seasons, so it's easier for me. It's so weird to see the spaces start opening back up again, and we've had good successes in these beds, but also some failures as well. But that's the fun of gardening. It looks a mess now, but it won't be long before this will all be hoed over, and the crops that worked were marvellous, but other ones, they just never came to nothing. But sometimes it happens, you know, and sometimes spring onions, they work marvellous for me, and other times they stay like that, so just take them out and sow some more. I will say though, the Strawflowers look absolutely amazing. They look like something out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, don't they? But if you look at them, they actually look really, really lush and soft, but actually, if you listen, they're quite papery in texture, but they are fascinating and beautiful to look at. Have you ever been asked, like, why you do this? Like, what's the point? And I can't ever answer that in one simple answer. And some days I think I'm crazy to put this much effort into just growing food, but then other days I look back at the harvest and think it's worth its weight in gold, honestly. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But then, like I said, there's some days when I think, what am I doing over here in the rain, in the cold, sowing seeds? But I don't know what it is. You have got the same feeling, I'm sure, that it's just a bit of a fix. And I love growing food, and I love YouTubing and sharing my experience on the plots. And yeah, it's just, for me, it just fits for me, and I'm sure for you too. But I can never put it into words why I love gardening so much. I just don't know why. Maybe we're all just a glutton for punishment. And the Ocha. I wanted to give you an update on the Ocha. Now, there is some foliage that's going a little bit yellow, but this is growing so well. It's so lush here, and I'm so glad that I grew it in this area. Now, the pound, however, It's got still some more of that blooming weed growing all over it, but the more I take it off, the more it comes back, but that's for another day. But the Ocha, I think we're on to a winner this year. Now Mayo over at Spuds and Roses, I put a link to her channel in the description. She has been my little mentor really for the Ocha this year, and I've pestered her a few times about the progress and little tips and tricks, so go and have a look at her channel. She's all right, I suppose. I mean, no, she's lovely. So yeah, go and have a look at her channel. But she does Ocha and she does many other things as well. She also does potatoes and roses as well. Weird, isn't it? So she's advised me to leave the Ocha into the ground, let the frost take it, and then a couple of weeks after the foliage has died down, the tubers will swell, and then you should get big tubers as well, and they should taste quite lemony. I didn't cook them last year because I harvested them too early and they were tiny little tiddlers. But this year I'm hoping for a bumper crop because I've put 4 different varieties in, labelled them up, so I'm hoping that I can keep some and I can share some out as well so that other people can grow them. I know I gave some to Linda at the Feel Good Garden as well, so we'll see how she gets on with hers as well, because hers are directly in the ground and mine are in a raised bed, so we'll see how we get on in winter with those as well. Let's do a lovely harvest. I'm Danny and this is Grow Up.